And we can now report that BTN has moved from a stream of their setup to a logo. Brian, what do you think this indicates?
For those of you just joining us, we are eagerly awaiting the anticipation of the launch of BitTorrent News live from Republican National Convention. It looks like we have a logo, Tom.
Yes, we have a Republican National Convention logo, and a man is beginning to talk.
And I've lost interest. Let's start the show!
Welcome to Cordkillers, our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord-cutting revolution so you can watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on whatever device you want, even if that's cable. You know what? We're open to all comers, Brian Brushwood.
We don't judge here unless we judge unfairly high prices and the inability to choose your hardware. That's what we judge. But I'll tell you what we don't sit in judgment of is the awesome launch of the fact that Justin Robert Young, your friend of mine, is going to be on BitTorrent News covering the Republican National Convention. How freaking badass is that?
I know, man. I'm so excited for him. I've been following his snaps as he was setting up and wandering around the convention, and it's an exciting time for Justin. It's a very exciting time for streaming. We're going to talk more about not only BTN, but other efforts going into covering this. This seems to be the place that everybody's launching their streaming news organization.
I mean, it's as good a place and time as any, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So let's not wait. Let's get right to it and talk about our primary target.
Yeah.
Which I realize probably after all of that, you're expecting it to be about coverage of the national conventions and streaming news. It's coming later in the show. The Hollywood Reporter, though, talked with Apple Senior VP of Software and Services, Eddie Q, about Apple's TV strategy. Now, the reason I made this the primary target, and Brian and I made it the primary target, is Apple TV for now half a decade or more has been a thing people are waiting to come. And we've gotten our kicks now about reporting about the non-status of it. This is an Apple employee speaking on the record about Apple TV. You may think that this has happened before, but it rarely has. He didn't say a whole lot. He sidestepped the question of offering a TV service, saying, quote, whether we're providing it or somebody else is, it really doesn't matter to us. He also said Apple is, quote, not in the business of trying to create TV shows, although Apple does have a new television show called Planet of the Apps in development that is looking to cast 100 app creators. He said that Apple is not, quote, actively trying to buy any studio. That definitely pours cold water on the idea of them still buying somebody like Time Warner. And Eddie Q says Apple is focused on hardware and making it easy to get your shows. He said even with like a simple voice command or no command at all. Brian.
Okay, that is getting awfully close to my wish list right there. I do like hearing that. I absolutely loved the Recode story where they broke down all the things they meant to say between the lines.
Yeah, no, Peter Kafka, if you don't read his coverage of this space on Recode, you absolutely should if you're interested in the cord cutting space at all. He says, here's my translation. Of course, we'd like to sell people a package of TV that would retail for about $30 a month instead of 2 or 3 times that much. That's what we wanted to launch last fall, but we can't get it now because even though the TV guys are right at the edge of a cliff, they don't see it or won't accept it, so they're unwilling to shrink the bundles of programming they sell, which means if we want to sell Fox, we also have to sell FX, which means our skinny bundle won't be so skinny after all. And it goes on from that, but it basically is a rephrasing of the things between the lines of what Eddie Q said.
Yeah, and that makes sense. I think he's right on the money here, and it's so weird that this has just become an increasingly open secret project. I got to admit, the fact that he says the first show that they're definitely working on, that they confirm, hey, we're doing this, is a reality television show, that just doesn't seem very aptly to me.
Well, except it's about apps, right? Like I'm totally with you. Like Apple doing a reality show seems odd. Not they usually do more high production value things. Not that reality shows are bad. Brian's been in one, sort of.
Sure.
But as you know, that's not like a documentary that you've poured a lot of money in, or some music special, which seems to be more what Apple does, but it's about apps. So on the other hand, I'd like, well, if they were going to do one, that something promoting the App Store and developers seems totally normal.
If it was something that felt more like a documentary where they were profiling a different app creator every month or week, that would make more sense to me. But just in general, a weird soft launch for the announcement of this title that seems to be kind of, I don't want to call it half-baked. I'm sure they're going to do just fine with it, but I don't know. This
there's a lot of typical Apple stuff of like, we're not going to get into the business of original content, and then the interviewer says, well, what about all of this original content you're doing? And some of it he confirms, some of it he doesn't, but he just sort of brushes it off as like, well, yeah, I mean, we dabble, we're just little Apple over here, don't mind us, we're not serious about anything, which is ridiculous. If this stuff were to take off, Apple would entirely start getting more into it. What they're doing is hedging their bets and trying to keep you from expecting them to come up with a suite of original content the way Netflix has, the way Amazon has. I think that's what they're saying.
Can I propose a theory? And I'm not married to this, and you might be able to talk me out of it. I think they actively did damage to their own reputation by doing this interview in this way, because one thing Apple really is known for is extraordinary clarity of message. They do one thing, they do it precisely well. They act like they're the first people to ever think of it. They don't hem and haw. They don't shrug their shoulders. And from the beginning, this whole Apple TV as a side project thing or whatever, it's been the most un-Apple release they've ever done, and it's just getting worse. It seems to me, and I'd hate to say it, Tom, it feels like they don't know what they're doing, and they can't decide, and they can't get their way, and so now they're just throwing their hands up like, TV, what are you going to do? We're Apple. It feels like they lose focus, and it seems like it's a bad idea.
Yeah, those are fair criticisms. They also have been leveraged against Apple in the past, sometimes rightly, sometimes wrongly. Apple dissed video for the longest time. Like, why would you want video on your iPod? Until the day they came out with an iPod that played video.
But see, that's fine, because that's black and white. That is always, Apple's always been like Trump. It's always been like, I've always said no. Forever I've always said no, until it's like, it's the best thing ever. And we've always felt this way behind the scenes. We were really excited about it. Now we can finally come out and say it. I feel like that's what's happening, or not even what's happening here. I feel like they're just, shrugging their shoulders. They're like,
I think they're trying to do the like, well, no, we don't really care who provides the service. Go ahead, Sling TV, put your app on our platform, because we can't get a deal done. I think my theory is that what Apple's trying to do here is say, Apple TV is a great platform, and that's our new message, because we can't get the deal done. And that's probably what's giving it that undermining mushiness that you're reacting to. Is what they wanted to do is say, Apple TV's just a hobby, Apple TV's a hobby, until they came out with the amazing, like, and now here's the new platform that lets you just watch what you want, and in fact sometimes suggest what you want, and it comes from all the sources, and you don't need to know what the networks are behind it. Like, that seems to be their aim, right? They want to make it really easy to just turn on the TV and watch something. And Apple's really good at that sort of thing. But what they couldn't do is get a pipeline of the content coming to you for an unaffordable price. And so now they're trying to back off that and say, like, well, I guess we're open to anybody who wants to do it, as long as they'll give us 30% cut in the App Store.
So the other thing that you mentioned briefly was the idea of maybe, just maybe, the interface would not even ask you for anything. And there are some people out there who I'm sure are bristling, where it's like, whoa, it just serves you video, tells you what you're going to watch? That can't be good, unless it is a system that absolutely knows everything that you love, how much you love it, plugs in. Imagine if, and I don't know if this is possible, but imagine if it plugged into, let's say, a Netflix API, and it was able to download your viewing habits and what you rated Netflix and all your Amazon Prime stuff and whatever, and it watched your actual viewing habits. And on top of that, it follows and looks at mentions on Twitter and social media of what all your friends are talking about. Because, for example, we're going to talk later on about how you and I jumped into Stranger Things. And I got to admit, the reason we're watching it is because everyone on the planet is talking about Stranger Things, including a lot of people whose opinions I trust. And if it notices, imagine if the first time you heard about Stranger Things was not from 25 different people on Netflix, but instead the Apple TV system saying, trust me. Do you trust me? You're going to want to watch this. this fits you and everyone you love is way into it, then I'd be like, yeah, go for it. Let's watch it.
And that's what Netflix is trying to do within their own system.
Sure.
So it makes perfect sense that somebody who's like, hey, we do still have more things to choose from in Apple TV. And we've built the system that pipes them into Siri and got the app makers on board with a little machine learning. We should not only be able to recommend great stuff to you, but I would go one step further and say, if I sit down and it's 6:30 on a Sunday Pacific time, it should just go, so you want to watch Preacher, right?
Exactly.
Because it's on PlayStation View right now, and not that Apple has a PlayStation View app right now, but let's say it did, it would be able to say, like, we know that this is when you sit down to watch this, so here you go, or Game of Thrones, or whatever it is. And it puts it in front of you.
Shane in the chat points out that this really is essentially what YouTube already tries to do with its recommendation engine, and there are aspects of it that are true, but YouTube has a different agenda from what I think the Apple TV would eventually have. YouTube's agenda is keep eating, shove it in your face. You want more. You're still here, aren't you? Shut up and eat it. Whereas I feel like a good Apple concierge service would know when you want to watch just one thing and play it for you automatically.
Yeah. Because the Apple, because it's not providing the service, I think actually could have a stronger offering here to say, we don't care whether it's Sling or PlayStation or Amazon or Netflix or Hulu. We are the platform. And we are just going to know what you want and try to put it in front of you with the least amount of friction as possible.
The other great thing about that is it would provide that clarity that I hunger for that normally we get from the Apple brand. That would be fascinating if they were able to say and spin everything. It's like, we've stood on the sideline as we've watched different players come in and out, and we've never felt like it was the right time to jump in. But now, finally, there's 12 competing services, and we have partnerships with all of them, and we're bringing you the one box that is truly, it doesn't have a dog in the fight. It's not going to force its own content on you. We're the best.
Yeah. And the day Sony PlayStation View shows up on Apple TV, Apple will have convinced Sony of that somehow, which would be a feat, I have to say.
Absolutely.
Hey, we just want to thank everyone who makes this show possible. We're able to bring you this information, consolidate it, hopefully make it more understandable for you and help you control your viewing habits even more. We're like the Uber platform because of you. The folks who support the show.
Yeah, man, why don't you head on over to patreon.com/Cordkillers. That's patreon.com/Cordkillers. Why don't you join the nearly 2,000 people who have said, you know what? Your show's pretty good. Let me give you the change I have in my pocket for it. We don't ask for a lot. Yeah, you want to give us a nickel a show? Then that's okay. You think it's worth $1 a show? We like you even better.
Yeah, whatever you can afford that helps the show, just a little bit of pocket change, all of you together doing that makes the show possible. So Thank you very much. Patreon.com/Cordkillers. Let's move on to the Signals Intelligence. This is the segment of the show where we talk about the streaming services, bringing you, and often it is about Netflix or Amazon. We're not going to lie, maybe Hulu. But today it's about Twitter. They have been signing up live streaming video partners like crazy. Bloomberg Television is the latest. Twitter will stream Bloomberg's market coverage throughout the day, as well as several programs like With All Due Respect and Bloomberg West. They will sell pre-roll ads. So this is the first time they're monetizing one of these streams. We know they'll probably monetize the NFL streams they're doing later this year. They did not monetize the Wimbledon streams that they ran as a test. They will also share revenue with Bloomberg on those ads, and there may be in-stream ads as well. Twitter also struck a sports streaming deal with Pac-12 for college games, hosting over 150 events during the upcoming 2016-2017 academic year. That does not include basketball or football, which are the high dollar value items, but lots of the other, they call them Olympic sports like track and field, some baseball and softball, it looks like. Yeah, and Twitter covering the conventions as well. Like they are going to have live streams from CBS being piped in on their stream without commentary. This is more of a public service to say, hey, if you're on Twitter and you're talking about the conventions, why not just have the stream right inside of Twitter? I
got to tell you, this sounded kind of silly on the surface, the idea of Twitter getting into the live streaming services. But when they announced the NFL deal, all of a sudden it made sense. Because, of course, what Twitter is the heart and soul of what everybody's talking about and thinking about in one particular moment. And specifically, Twitter is the home of fleeting thoughts, like, wow, that was a great pass or whatever. But the idea of taking that into news, especially as we see increased, sports-like politicization of news coverage. I think it's a really, speaking of which, by the way, our own very own Justin Robert Young looks like he's about to get on screen over at BitTorrent News. I think that's a smart play for Twitter all around, man.
Yeah, it is interesting to me that one of the things we've always said live streaming television, in other words, cable television or broadcast television, has an advantage in is real-time events. So sports events, news events, all of those things are what Twitter is trying to get a foot in. And I think this is an incredibly smart thing, as Twitter has all these questions about, well, its user growth is stagnating, and do people really want to have a conversation on Twitter, and isn't Facebook eating its lunch? Twitter is trying to say, we are the place for live things, which it still is. I followed the vice presidential announcement by Donald Trump on Saturday by watching Twitter. And if they'd had a live stream of the video, I would have watched the video, but I didn't even need to. I was just watching people's reactions to it. And Twitter knows that people are consuming Twitter that way, so they want to encourage that by saying, hey, why even turn on anything else? Just keep Twitter on, and we'll provide you all of this live content.
Yeah, and in a world where increasingly many people get their news first from Twitter, and we saw for good and for ill, we saw accurate information and inaccurate information disseminated on Twitter, but we saw both of them disseminated faster than we did from the cable networks. It was really weird to see stuff that seemed to be counterfactual just 30 minutes after it first launched still being reported on the cable networks. And so it'll be interesting to see that phenomenon play out in real time in the same window on your browser.
I'm wondering what this looks like in the end. What does Twitter end up, is it become an app on your Roku that you turn on? Or is it something that will always be like, we're meant for the desktop or your mobile device? I don't know. I think Twitter's going to have to come up with some kind of compelling way to make me think of them as the place to go when I kind of sometimes want to have it up on my television, and there's no easy way to do that for people yet.
Well, and keep in mind, there's a strong incentive for them to make small moves in this regard, because they only get, let's say, 3 big dumb blunders before people stop really thinking about Twitter as their go-to spot. Yes, we think it would be cool in a high-tech way, but if they want to move into a space, take someone like my mom who has a Twitter account but doesn't really use it. If they're going to try to entice her, say, hey, watch the news, watch sports on your television with the Twitter app, and it does something or is poorly implemented, or they Google Plus it, they'll that could be a real problem, and that could cost them a lot of market share. And so I think they're being smart by making small moves and essentially letting organic things happen. Going all the way back to the hashtag was an organic thing that they didn't design. The people designed it right on their own. The way news coverage gets analyzed is all crowdsourced, essentially. So I would say they have a strong interest in not overdoing it in any direction.
And they're definitely becoming a streaming service, though, of a sense.
Oh,
of a
sure.
different
No.
sense.
Full stop. I wouldn't even say of a sense.
Point.
I would say full stop. And I would say it makes sense for them to do it. The only thing that's puzzling to me is why all of this isn't under the Periscope umbrella. They bought Periscope for a reason, and whether or not it's implemented to everyone's satisfaction, the idea of it is fantastic, and it integrates fantastically with Twitter. It seems like Periscope should be their own Twitch TV, and that just universal something. Whenever you log in, it's like, hey, by the way, this thing that everyone's talking about is happening right now. What click here to.
Well, I get
Periscope.
why they want to partner with CBS News to provide the live video stream, because that is a higher quality stream. It's just going to look better. It's going to be more organized than a bunch of Periscopes. But I also agree with you why I wonder why there isn't yet more integration of Periscope under that, where you say, like, here's the official stream of what's happening at the convention, but here are all these Periscopes of what's happening around if you want to get individual views. And maybe Twitter's saying, well, that will happen organically because people post their Periscope streams on Twitter, so those will show up.
Yeah.
But I think it could be more formalized.
I question whether or not that's in their interest, because then they get into curation, and Twitter has always been the raw pipeline of what the world
But look
thinks.
at what Facebook Live does. Like with Turkey over the weekend, they just put up the map. the Facebook Live map and said, hey, here's all the things happening in Turkey, it's not any different than the map that you always have. And Periscope has the same map. So you could just say, like, here's the Cleveland map, and most of the stuff in here is convention stuff. And you wouldn't have to curate it at all.
Yeah. Interesting. Shane in the chat says Periscope has a map, so I don't know.
Yeah, they do. So just highlight it, it seems like. Anyway, let's gear up and tell you about the gear that's up.
Yeah.
We mentioned this back when they announced it at CES in January, but Dish has finally made their voice remote, available for Dish subscribers who have the Hopper 3 or the 4K Joey set-top boxes. It's $30 to get the remote. You pay for the privilege, but it allows you to navigate, search, and select programming using spoken commands. You can also change channels and record shows using your voice.
I don't even know that $30 is too much for that. I think the only bummer is that I don't know how big the market is for people who, both already have those devices and want the voice thing. But I'll tell you what, I did not mind after getting the Fire TV. When I got the Fire Stick, I'm glad I paid extra to get the voice remote, and I'm glad that the voice feature is in the gaming edition of the Fire TV that I have.
Yeah, I guess I could see Dish wanting to make this cheaper or give it to subscribers who have these boxes as an encouragement and say, like, hey, we'll give it to you for 12 months free. After that, you can either buy it or continue to lease it as part of your set-top box rental agreement, because Dish needs subscribers. So they're not doing that. That doesn't make it wrong. Like you say, for what it does, $30 does seem like an adequate price. It's certainly cheaper than you'd get from a Harmony remote or something like that.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, I don't even know how much it is, but I know it's for a ridiculously low price. Pre-orders for Pilot X available right now at TomMerrittBooks.com via Inkshares. How are you feeling about it, man? How close are we to release?
Oh, dude. Yeah, it's a normal price. It's not ridiculously low, but the developmental edit is done. It is a better book than it was when I first posted it on Inkshares, and I am super excited for people to read it. There is now we're into creating art for the cover, like official. They've got an official Real Deal artist on that. They're creating the marketing plan for reaching out to places like Publishers Weekly and all of that sort of thing. And March 14th. 2017 is when it finally will arrive, and Amazon even has a pre-order for it up. But if you're interested in Pilot X or any other books that I write, including the cord cutting guide, you can get them all at TomMerrittBooks.com.
By the way, don't forget that those pre-orders on Amazon really, really matter. It's like a giant rubber band. At the moment that book gets released, it just snaps, and all of a sudden it jumps to the top of the bestseller list.
Let's get to the front lines.
Front lines.
Netflix has obtained the rights to stream the new Star Trek series. That's the new reboot that's coming out on CBS All Access. So in 188 countries outside the US and Canada, you will get it on Netflix less than 24 hours after it premieres on CBS All Access. Netflix also extends its rights to stream all previous Star Trek series outside the markets where it already has the rights. It already has those in the US, but now it'll have them in other markets as well. That new Star Trek premieres in January. And I am with trepidation looking forward to it, Brian.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the whole point of this new Star Trek series seemed to be to push people to CBS All Access. And when I first read this story, it seemed like a quiet admission of failure that, obviously the whole world hadn't done it. Now, granted, there is the important aspect of if, CBS All Access is probably going to launch, certainly as an America-only thing.
So it is already launched, and it is only U.S.
Right, okay, right. But specifically, it occurred to me that this story, absent the CBS All Access, would be nothing but a triumph. I'd be like, oh my God, some studio is making an original Star Trek series, and it's a Netflix original. The only thing that's not that is the fact that it's on CBS All Access. That's the only weird part for me.
It is weird that CBS isn't launching an international service that they could build on the back of this, but they've decided not to. They've decided to stay domestic with CBS All Access. So it kind of sucks for us because we have to use CBS All Access and its commercials to watch this, whereas Netflix users around the world, or people with VPN, are going to be able to watch it almost at the same time as everybody else in the US without commercials. And Netflix gets to say, hey, here's another deal where we're getting something really fast. Like with the CW, they're getting it when the season ends. With this, they're getting it within 24 hours.
Yep. Netflix has a new thing called FlixTape at flixtape.netflix.com. That's Flix. That lets you search Netflix's available shows and movies and create a mix of titles that you can name and share with whomever you want. Anyone who gets your FlixTape and has a Netflix subscription can click the titles and watch them. I think is a terrible idea, Tom. This just seems like nothing but a way for people to backhandedly mock people. How about the spiky haired douche FlixTape, and all it does is play Hacking the System or something? I mean, I don't know.
I suppose it could be used for that. You're right.
I know that's all you're gonna see, because nobody. If you don't want to, I don't know. Maybe people.
I don't know that anyone's gonna use it for anything, frankly.
Right?
Like, I don't think anybody's gonna use it for anything.
I agree.
I think it's a cool idea that came out of a developer hacking session, and it's very well designed. I made one thing to see how it works. I don't think I'll ever go back and use it though.
Yeah, the closest I could think of is if somebody wanted to make and here's the biggest problem is what people might want is a collection of like, hey, what are the 20 best shows in your opinion that are must watch? Essentially like an Amazon reading list. But then my guess is you can't assemble a FlixTape that doesn't include titles on Netflix, right?
No, it's only titles in Netflix.
See, and then that's what makes it dumb immediately. Yeah.
Vevo has a new iOS and Android app. It's redesigned. So they've just taken their old app and redesigned it. It lets you stretch videos to play in portrait mode. Those of you who are pro portrait, or I guess there might be some of you. Also, Vevo has announced that it has hired humans to host videos on the service, a la Martha Quinn. Ask your parents.
Do you? Oh my gosh! Wow, it took me back to the 90s. Wow. So do you think that Vevo can Vevo survive completely detached and absent from YouTube like this?
If they're smart, they won't try to. I think the smart play for Vevo is build up Vevo as a great place to watch music videos and try to keep all the money from the people who watch there, and still let YouTube run videos, because YouTube is such a massive platform. Why would you give up that money? And it seems to be what they're doing, although all of the coverage tries to make it into a battle. And we definitely know there is a little bit of bad blood between the actual music companies and YouTube over rights and streaming, whatever. And having a strong Vevo will help them in negotiating those royalty rates. But in the end, at the end of the day, you just want people to watch your music wherever they can. And so you want to provide a compelling offering that maybe gets you to keep more of that audience, but why would you restrict it anywhere else?
Yeah, makes sense. Breaking news covered by BitTorrent is about BitTorrent. BitTorrent is launching BitTorrent News this week with coverage of U.S. political conventions with our own Justin Robert Young among the hosts, led by former Vice CNN reporter Harrison Borman. BTN will have live inside BitTorrent Live and Apple TV app, coming soon to OS X and eventually iOS and Android. And separately, BitTorrent announced its BitTorrent Now streaming app on iOS and Apple TV Friday. The app launched in Android in June. So right now, is Justin Robert Young live on BitTorrent News?
No.
All right.
We did see him sitting down earlier. And if you want to watch BitTorrent News, you have to download BitTorrent Live. So this is a little bit confusing. And then once you're in BitTorrent Live, you have to click and then swipe down and choose BitTorrent News. If it's not, it may be default. They can change the default stream. But if it's not, that's what you have to do to make it the default stream. I still think it's weird that they didn't have a BitTorrent News app also.
Well, and I think, and again, I have no inside knowledge of this whatsoever, but I assume it looks like they're just trying to move quickly. There's a big news opportunity, and that means you have to make compromises, and then it's just go, go, go. There he is right now, live right now, Justin Robert Young at BitTorrent News at the Republican National Convention.
Yeah, everybody's doing it. Twitch, BitTorrent News, Twitter. Everyone is using these conventions, because all eyes are on these conventions in the United States, as a place to say, hey, we're the place to follow what's going on there now. So it's really interesting. And congratulations, Justin Robert Young. Also, congratulations go to Emmy nominees. The announcements are out. Mr. Robot, Game of Thrones, The Americans, People versus O.J. Simpson, American Crime Story, Fargo, all stories we have talked about on this show received nominations. As far as cord-cutting related shows, Netflix's House of Cards, Master of None, Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt received nominations, as did Amazon's Transparent. That's just the show-wide nominations. There's also other episodes, even from Hulu, that got writer nominations, actor nominations, etc.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, I logged into Netflix the other day and they're like, "Congratulations, us on our 30 Emmy nominations for our originals."
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that's nothing but good news for people who like good content that is freely available or easy to get a hold of.
Well, I think one of the interesting things about this Emmy round is, remember when we're like, the story was Netflix got a nomination, and then the story was Netflix's old hat, Amazon got a nomination. Then it was Netflix won, then it was Amazon won. Now it's like, oh yeah, they're in there. Like, it has got to that point where they're like, well, of course they got nominations, and they'll probably win a few because that's the landscape now.
I'm so thankful we moved beyond the days of the cable Ace Awards and that the Emmys now are all inclusive.
Yeah. No, it got there faster for the streaming services, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. NBC announced their streaming plans for the Olympics. NBC will stream all 9 NBC Universal Olympic networks, plus any unbroadcasted events on desktop, mobile devices, and tablets, plus connected TVs. The NBC Sports app is available on the iTunes App Store, Google Play, Windows Store, Roku Channel Store, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. PlayStation View customers can authenticate for the NBC Sports app. Sling TV's Blue subscribers can get some NBC channels through the Sling app. Unauthenticated users can stream 30 minutes on their first visit and 5 minutes each subsequent day, which seems a little bit petty. So what's the very short takeaway if you're somebody who has none of these and just what do you predict is the most likely way if somebody wants to just dive in, they should just jump in and get that service?
VPN with BBC. No,
Okay.
I don't know.
Whoa, who said that? Who said that?
I think if you want to play legit, probably PlayStation View is your best bet if you don't have a cable TV subscription, because you can get lots of the channels on PlayStation View, which is now available on not only Fire TV, but Roku, as well as the PlayStation and iOS and Android. You can then log into the NBC Sports app, which is the big advantage over Sling. Sling has several NBC networks as well, and you'll be able to use your Sling app to watch this on more platforms than PlayStation View, but you can't authenticate yet on the NBC Sports app with the Sling TV app. So therefore, you can go to NBC Sports app, log in with PlayStation View, and get it on more platforms than PlayStation View is on.
Right on. What do you say we do a new functionality lightning round?
Yeah, these used to be full stories back in the day, but now we're just providing them as a public service to people who might be interested. Fox is live streaming its primetime TV across the U.S. for cable subscribers who authenticate.
Okay, hey man, it's a step in the right direction. The Stars app is now available on Roku.
One more platform. The free CBS News app is now available on Apple TV.
That's a good one. Amazon Prime Video can now be downloaded to SD cards on Android for offline viewing. Wow, that was like a Venn diagram that got smaller and smaller and smaller. I hope those guys are really excited.
You can load up a bunch of SD cards, I guess, for a trip. And Microsoft Edge is the first browser on Windows to support Netflix in 1080p. Safari, by the way, is the only one to support 1080p on OS X.
This is the biggest one to me. This is the one that made me realize, like, oh, I forgot I wasn't watching 1080p. I just knew that it looked good enough when I watched Netflix. So I'm really excited I'm going to actually jump over to Edge for the next thing I watch.
All right. And what are we going to watch? Well, that's what we talk about in a segment we call Under Surveillance. New images from The Dark Tower are out of Idris Elba and Matthew McConaughey. Honestly, they don't look that much different than the leaked images, but they're better resolution and they're official.
Yeah, and more importantly, they confirm certain rumors that are being said about the I don't know, counterintuitive nature of the script, I think is the most politic way to say it.
Netflix has ordered 20 episodes of Disjointed from Chuck Lorre. The comedy is about weed. It stars Kathy Bates playing a legalization advocate running an LA area dispensary.
Chuck Lorre did Big Bang Theory? No.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And Variety says 20th Century Fox and Marvel will partner on an X-Men TV show about the parents of mutant offspring. Bryan Singer is on board as an executive producer, and it will be written by Matt Nix. This is the second X-Men TV show. Don't forget there's one coming to FX as well.
Man, this on paper sounds like crazy talk. Like, what's it going to be? Like a Dawson Creek for adults wringing their hands about their mutant children? But then again, I've seen weirder stuff do really, really well.
I don't want to wait for my mutant powers to be over. All right, let's talk about what we've been watching. Brian, what have you been looking at?
Yeah, dude, caught the second half of the Mr. Robot season premiere. Been watching Stranger Things because the whole world's talking about it. I watched the first 2 episodes of that. Preacher saw last night, which I was glad to see that you'd caught up on as well. And of course, continuing on Justified. Watched The Secret Life of Pets. Hey, Tom, you're not going to watch The Secret Life of Pets, are you?
I already saw it.
Oh, well then I guess we could talk about it in spoiler time.
I guess. I'll be honest, I don't have much to say other than like, yeah, some great jokes for pet owners and overall just okay.
I mean, it was okay. Yeah. It was fascinating to me because like I saw how great Zootopia's writing was in the context of Finding Dory. Finding Dory was good, but Zootopia is the tightest script I've seen from Disney in years. Then I watched Secret Life of Pets, and there is no script. It's just a series of set pieces, one-note gags, and the entire plot is, and then that, and now this, and now that, and now this. Like, it's nothing. It's dumb. It's a dumb movie. My 3-year-old got bored and started running around in circles at the Alamo Drafthouse.
Oh, wow. No
Yeah.
kidding. Okay, well, that's the review. How many circles did she run in around? That's how many circles we'll get.
All the circles. She lasted halfway through the movie before she gave up.
I've been watching very similar things, obviously. Mr. Robot, Justified, Preacher, Stranger Things. I only got the first episode of Stranger Things, but we will talk about that on Spoiler in Time. The other movie that we saw this weekend was The Shallows, starring Blake Lively as a woman who goes to a secret beach in Mexico to swim in the place where her mother went when she first found out she was pregnant with her. It's got 11 people in the cast. This is a tiny cast movie, and it's all about a shark. So she goes out on the water in this emotionally significant place, and then there's a shark attack in the bay, and there's a dead whale. And frankly, there's like 2 really dumb lines. The only one I can remember was the dumbest line was she tries to, when she first gets attacked by the shark, she escapes by getting on top of the dead whale, and then the shark starts to bump the whale and drag it, and she yells, "Where are you taking me?" Which I was like, ow, okay, that's
right up there with "It's a Family Heirloom" from Daredevil.
Yeah, kind of. So that was cringeworthy. There was another line later on that was a little cringeworthy, and there's a ridiculous outcome to the shark that actually made people in the theater laugh. But that said, the other 76% of the movie is fantastic. Like, it's a great shark movie. They did a wonderful job on the effects and the suspense. There's not a lot of dialogue because you don't need a lot of dialogue. And Blake Lively does a fantastic job acting like someone who is trying to stay away from a shark in a bay in an isolated location where there's no one who can help her.
Right on, man. Maybe I'll have to check that out when it comes to Netflix or whatever.
But Bryce, almost called Bryce Blake. I apologize. You are not gossipy even. What are you on the lookout for?
So I got 2 things. I got an update. Difficult People, which we talked about on this segment before, has premiered their season 2. So Hulu has got the first 2 episodes up already. And new episodes will be going up on Tuesdays. This is the comedy show about Julie Klausner and Billy Eichner, who play 2 self-centered, selfish, rude, just inconsiderate people. Difficult people. And it's so funny. It's like right in step with season 1. So if you like it, there are a lot of big names in these first 2 episodes. Tina Fey plays herself. Nathan Lane is in it. It's season 2 is really great. For our recommendations, Frank from Brooklyn sent us in a couple, so we're just gonna lightning round these as well. He writes, first, I'm sure you're all aware Louis C.K.'s Horace and Pete. It's a remarkable piece of work, and I hope you get around to watching it, but it's gotten quite a bit of press, so I'll leave it at that. He also recommends a little more obscure The Outs, a gay-themed web series that follows 2 men and their social circle in the aftermath of their breakup. It's funny and smart and generally well acted and tells its story in a way that would be hard to pull off on corporate TV. While it's not perfect, it gets a lot of things right. For example, HBO's Looking gets wrong. It's in its second season, which is on Vimeo on demand now. There's also Whatever This Is, an earlier series from the same creator of The Outs that follows a group of down in their luck 20-something freelance filmmakers against smart, carefully observed, funny, and a little painful from time to time. He writes, I know neither of these descriptions sound all that captivating, but the characters are drawn clearly and compelling enough, and the writing and direction are confident and competent enough that the shows themselves are worth checking out, even if you're outside of what you might perceive as their niche audiences. So that's Frank from Brooklyn. So Louis... Horace and Pete you can see from louisck.net. The Outs you can see on theouts.com, streaming season 1 for free, and season 2 is on Vimeo on demand. And then Whatever This is at whateverthisis.com, which is free to watch on their website.
Awesome. Hey, if you got something we should be on the lookout for, email us cordkillers@gmail.com. Let's get to our dispatches from the front. As we mentioned earlier, a lot of you said, hey, you should watch, are you going to watch Stranger Things? Jeff Steinhauer is going to represent you in our emails. He says, please tell me you guys are going to watch Stranger Things and spoil the hell out of it. I'm very interested in seeing Brian's thoughts on all the Easter eggs. I just binged the whole show in one day.
Can I confess something? I didn't really see any big Easter eggs jump out stylistically, and we'll talk about this. And there's some stylistic things that felt like references to things that we loved back in the day.
Like in the trailer, there's the bike that's been tossed over and the wheels spinning, and you're like, well, that's obviously an homage to E.T., for instance.
Yeah. All right. Chuck writes, hi guys, love the show, and as a loyal Patreon supporter, I will keep you on the payroll as long as you continue your crusade to watch what you want when you want on whatever device you please. I was unsure if anybody contacted you about HDR10 versus Dolby Vision, but I wanted to recommend 2 other great podcasts. AVXL, episode 18, another great Patreon investment opportunity, and Avrant, that's Avrant, AV-Rant, duh. At episode 492 at the 23:12 mark for a technical deep dive on this and other AV topics, sorting hype from facts. There's an article and he gives us a link. Keep up the good work and looking forward to Cordkiller total victory in the future. Thank you very much, Chuck.
Matt Bat says, I'm trying to find the cheapest legal way to watch a few summer TV series, Mr. Robot, Killjoys, Dark Matter, Top Gear. I see that Sling Blue has all of those channels, so I sign up for the 7-day trial. First 2 episodes of Mr. Robot are available on demand. I get excited. The rest of the shows are appointment viewing only, with no way to even set a reminder. It's probably because some of those are out of season. So I try the Sci-Fi app to register my cable provider, and no, Sling is not an option. Basically, this thing is appointment viewing only with no DVR. I guess I'll be canceling and buying my shows one at a time from Amazon or Vudu, since Amazon Prime has none of the shows I watched either. He says, have you noticed that 1 cent per episode, it's 1 cent per episode cheaper to buy shows one at a time rather than the whole season? I haven't noticed that in anything. Most of the ones I've bought have been like a couple dollars cheaper to buy the whole season.
No. Like I have noticed that.
But have you noticed this?
Yeah, but I'm unwilling to go through the tedium of buying them one at a time.
That's how they get you. That's how they get that extra 8 cents or 16 cents or whatever. That's
I gotta tell you, I'm having increased frustration with this appointment viewing stuff. Less for the timing. I don't mind getting together at the same time to watch it. But just the ads are killing me. The ads on Sling TV, at least on AMC, they're awful. And I don't want to do it anymore. And if I'm gonna spend the same 20-something bucks one way or the other, I'd rather just buy the episode, since I'm doing it for Preacher right now.
Yeah, I mean, PlayStation Vue definitely has the advantage there, because with a cloud DVR, you can just watch the show as soon as it's done. You don't have to wait for it to show up on an on-demand list. You can authenticate to a bunch of other services, although Sling TV allows you to authenticate ESPN. So sports fans still might prefer Sling.
Yeah.
And yet, PlayStation Vue also lets you skip through commercials. You can fast forward. It's clunky, but you can do it.
Yeah. Cliff writes in saying, hey, Tom and Brian, just want to let you know that Joseph Gilgun, the guy who plays Cassidy in Preacher, is in the new film The Infiltrator and is very good in a small part. He is a completely different character. I almost didn't recognize him. I know you enjoy him in Preacher as I do. Thought you might want to check him out in a good film with Bryan Cranston. I hear great things about The Infiltrator, by the way.
Yeah, and with Bryan Cranston in it, I'm already partway sold. Putting Gilgan in there as well definitely helps. Jordan wrote in and said, what's up with not mentioning The 100 every time you talk about the CW lineup? If you've not seen it, please correct this grave mistake immediately. An apt description of The 100 would be taking Game of Thrones, adding Battlestar Galactica, tossing in a dash of Lord of the Flies, and a pinch of Lost. Give it until the end of episode 3. I promise you'll be just as hooked as I was. Jordan, you had me until I'll be hooked because I don't have time for any more shows, even if they're perfect.
Also, we've also recommended it based on a fan's thing on the Lookout. So
Yeah, we definitely have.
Yeah.
No, this is great. We love getting the recommendations like this, the 100. Even if we've already recommended, just adding your voice is great. Send us an email. Don't say we're making a grave mistake. Dude, there's so many good shows. Nobody can watch all of the amazing shows that are out right now.
Well, if you can, you probably don't have time to do Cordkillers every week. Matt in Williamsport subscribes to a Comcast bundle because it's the cheapest way for him as an engineering student, and having Netflix on the cable box will bring it easily to the living room TV. Remember last week we were talking about whether or not people will actually use Netflix on cable boxes. Tim Magnuson says, in our AARP home, the addition of Netflix to our X1 box eases the spousal factor a bit. Falls' dad, or is it Fez's? Fez's dad, sorry, has a basement theater but insists on watching TV in the kitchen, meaning he never uses Netflix. Fez writes, our IPTV provider, Bell in Canada, added Netflix support a few months back, and since then he's used it on occasion, still not regularly, but often enough that it's not just a fluke.
So there you go. Folks been watching the Netflix on the cable boxes. Thanks everybody for writing in. Thanks everybody for watching. Tell your friends about Cordkillers. Our website is cordkillers.com. Our email address is cordkillers@gmail.com. And we're live on diamondclub.tv Mondays at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. See you next time.
Hey guys, Tom and Brian here. We just wanted to say thank you to all of our $5 patrons who keep us loud, live, and independent. You guys make Cordkillers the production that it is.
Your name appears in the video credits and appears in our hearts. And if you'd like to become one of them or see who they are, you can go to patreon.com/Cordkillers.
You'll need to do more than just go there, though. You'll have to sign up and, pledge an amount. But
unless you just want to see who they are.
Well, I mean, you could gawk. That's a little creepy, isn't it?
If you want to be a gawker,
let's go.
It's up to you.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.